Have you ever wondered why some people make more money than ever before and still somehow feel broke? Why does finally earning more never feel like enough? Because here is something strange about money most people never realize. Your brain does not actually care about becoming rich. It cares about feeling rich, and those two things are completely different. That is why people with bigger salaries still stress about bills. Why some high earners stay trapped, while others with average incomes quietly build wealth. Most people think becoming rich is simple. Make more money, buy nicer things, upgrade your lifestyle, and finally feel successful. But if that actually worked, why does success somehow keep getting more expensive? Why do people hit financial goals and still feel behind? That is exactly why this video is called. Your brain is lying to you about being rich, and the thumbnail says, "Rich? Think again." Because there is a very uncomfortable truth most people never stop to question. Maybe what you think rich looks like is completely wrong. Maybe the expensive car, luxury lifestyle, and constant upgrades are not proof of wealth at all. In fact, what if many of the things people do to feel rich are secretly the same things, stopping them from becoming wealthy? Because your brain loves shortcuts. It loves instant rewards. It wants to feel successful today, even if it quietly steals from your future. And here is where things get dangerous. There is one psychological trap almost everyone falls into without realizing it. A trap so normal that people mistake it for success. And once you see it, you will never think about money the same way again. So why does your brain lie to you about money in the first place? Because your brain was not designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make you feel safe, rewarded, and comfortable right now. And that sounds harmless until you realize something dangerous. What feels good financially is often completely different from what actually builds wealth. Think about it. Why does getting a raise suddenly make your current life feel too small? The car that felt perfectly fine last year suddenly feels outdated. The apartment feels average. The clothes somehow feel old. Expenses you never even cared about suddenly start feeling normal. And the strange part? Nothing around you actually changed overnight. You did, or more specifically, your brain quietly upgraded its definition of success faster than your income could satisfy it. That is why earning more money often feels exciting for a few weeks, and strangely normal right after, because every financial milestone quietly creates a new standard, and the finish line moves again. But society makes this even worse. Scroll social media for 5 minutes and what do you see? Luxury vacations, dream homes, expensive dinners, people looking like they completely figured life out. But nobody posts the pressure, the anxiety, the debt, the stress of maintaining an image that costs more than peace of mind. And your brain watches all of this and starts whispering something dangerous. You are behind. Suddenly saving feels boring. Investing feels painfully slow. Waiting feels frustrating. And spending feels like proof that life is finally moving forward. But here is the part most people never notice. If your definition of success keeps changing every time your income grows, maybe the problem is not how much money you make. Maybe the problem is the version of success your brain keeps chasing. Jarouse, what feels good financially is often completely different from what actually builds wealth. Think about it. Why does getting a raise suddenly make your current life feel too small? The car that felt perfectly fine last year suddenly feels outdated. The apartment feels average. The clothes somehow feel old. Expenses you never even cared about suddenly start feeling normal. And the strange part? Nothing around you actually changed overnight. You did, or more specifically, your brain quietly upgraded its definition of success faster than your income could satisfy it. That is why earning more money often does not feel the way people imagined it would. Because every financial milestone creates a new standard, and the finish line quietly moves again. But society makes this even worse. Scroll social media for 5 minutes and what do you see? Luxury vacations, expensive watches, dream homes, people looking like they completely figured life out. But social media does not show financial pressure. It does not show debt. It does not show anxiety. It does not show the stress of maintaining an image that costs more than peace of mind. Your brain watches all of this and starts whispering something dangerous. You are behind. Suddenly, saving money feels boring. Investing feels painfully slow. Waiting feels frustrating. And spending feels like proof that life is finally moving forward. But here is the uncomfortable truth almost nobody wants to admit. Real wealth is usually invisible. It hides in ownership. Investments, savings, freedom, flexibility, and choices people cannot immediately see, which creates one of the biggest financial illusions of modern life. People confuse income with wealth, and if every raise quietly disappears into a more expensive lifestyle, are you actually becoming richer? Or are you just building a more expensive version of financial stress? And this is where things quietly start getting expensive, because most financial mistakes do not feel like mistakes while you are making them. They feel deserved, logical, even exciting. Think about what happens when someone finally starts making more money. At first, it feels like relief. Finally, breathing room. But then something strange happens. Better phone, better apartment, more expensive habits, small upgrades that feel harmless in the moment. Until one day, the lifestyle that once felt exciting quietly becomes normal. And here is the trap nobody talks about. The moment your lifestyle grows as fast as your income, your freedom starts shrinking, not all at once, quietly. Invisible subscriptions, bigger monthly payments, higher expectations, more things to maintain, more pressure to keep earning. This is called lifestyle inflation. But what makes it dangerous is that it rarely feels dangerous. You tell yourself, once I make a little more money, life will finally feel easier. Then you get there. And somehow, life still feels expensive. Because your brain quietly moved the goalpost again. What once felt luxurious now feels basic. What once felt optional suddenly feels necessary. And now earning more money no longer creates freedom. It just funds a more expensive version of normal. But there is another trap that makes this even worse: comparison. Not because other people are richer, but because comparison quietly changes what feels good. Enough. Someone buys a house. Suddenly your progress feels small. Someone travels more. Now your life feels behind. Someone looks successful online. And your brain starts whispering something dangerous. You should be further ahead. Even when you are doing fine, comparison makes fine feel like failure. And that pressure pushes people into decisions they normally would never make. Spending to impress, financing lifestyles they cannot comfortably afford, chasing appearances instead of peace of mind, which leads to an uncomfortable question. If making more money does not automatically create freedom, then what actually separates people who feel financially trapped from people who quietly build real security? Here is where almost everything people believe about money starts to fall apart. Because being rich and being wealthy are not the same thing. Even though most people talk about them like they mean exactly the same thing. Rich usually means money coming in. Wealthy means money staying, growing, and eventually working without you. And that difference changes everything. Because someone can earn a huge salary, drive an expensive car, wear luxury brands, and still feel financially fragile. One bad month, one unexpected bill, one job loss, and suddenly the lifestyle that looked successful starts feeling stressful. Meanwhile, someone else might look completely average on the outside, but quietly owns investments, assets, savings, and something people underestimate until they lose it: time, freedom. So ask yourself this: who is actually richer? The person earning a lot of money but constantly protecting an expensive lifestyle? Or the person who could stop working tomorrow and still be okay? That is why the thumbnail says rich. Think again. Because most people are not chasing wealth. They are chasing the image of wealth. And here is the uncomfortable part. Sometimes people do not actually want financial freedom. They want the feeling of looking successful, the admiration, the status, the appearance that life is working. But there is a cost to that game. Because the more your identity depends on looking successful, the harder it becomes to make smart financial decisions that look boring in the short term. Saving feels invisible. Investing feels slow. Living below your means feels unimpressive. But real wealth often grows in silence. Debt screams. Status screams. Spending screams. But wealth? Wealth whispers. And maybe that is the biggest lie your brain tells you. That success should look successful. Because if your definition of rich depends on impressing strangers, competing with friends, or constantly upgrading your lifestyle, you will keep chasing a finish line that never stops moving. So now the real question becomes, if your brain is naturally wired to chase short-term rewards, can you actually train it to think differently? So can you actually stop your brain from lying to you about money? Yes, but only after accepting something uncomfortable. Becoming wealthy is often psychologically boring before it becomes exciting. Because your brain wants proof that you are succeeding right now. That is why buying something expensive feels rewarding instantly, while saving, investing, and patience feel invisible. But maybe the people building Real wealth are simply the people who stopped obeying every financial impulse. Try replacing one question. Not, can I afford this? But, is this helping me become financially free? Because real wealth is not about saying no to everything. It is about learning the difference between what feels good now and what protects your future. And maybe that is the biggest shift of all. Stop trying to look rich. Start trying to become hard to financially break. Because one bad month should not destroy your life. One emergency should not create panic. One mistake should not erase years of progress. Real wealth buys something far more valuable than status. Time, peace, options, freedom. And here is the uncomfortable truth. A lot of people spend their entire lives trying to look successful, only to realize too late they never built the freedom they actually wanted. So before you ask how to become rich, ask yourself something harder. What if your brain has been chasing the wrong definition of rich this entire time? Because once you change the way you think about money, the way you build it starts changing too.